A woman walked through the door. She was in her 60s, wearing a black coat, holding an umbrella. It was raining outside. The umbrella wasn't wet. Edgar Blackwood noticed this, because Edgar noticed everything. But the one thing he needed to notice about this woman, he would only realize 3 days later. The woman was looking for her daughter. A straightforward story, an ordinary case. A 23-year-old girl, a nursing student, missing. But according to the city's records office, that girl had already died 2 years ago. And the person who filed the death certificate was her own mother. This wasn't a missing persons case. This was the beginning of something that had been hidden for 12 years, coming to the surface. And the things that come to the surface don't always come out clean. Welcome. This is a channel where the answers are as heavy as the questions. This is a world where every lie leaves a trace. Today we'll tell you about one of Edgar Blackwood's darkest cases. If you're ready, let's begin. In the final days of November 1940, the city had surrendered to the rain as if ashamed of something. This was no ordinary November rain. It was relentless, determined, and heavy enough to drown out even the distant echoes of war from across Europe. The street lamps were lit as always, yet tonight their glow seemed dimmer. Perhaps the city itself had grown darker. Edgar Blackwood couldn't say for certain. He could only say this: rain slows people down. Slowed people begin to think. And thinking people make mistakes. Edgar was alone in his office that night. He was on the second floor of a 3-story brick building whose door creaked every time it opened. On his desk sat a half-finished cup of coffee growing cold, a cigarette butt pressed into an ashtray, and a case file from 1932. He pulled that file out every few weeks. Not to search for anything, just to look at it, as if glancing at it confirmed that something he hoped for had remained unchanged. 8 years had passed. Nothing had changed. He glanced at the window. A light was leaking from a building across the street. Someone was working late, or they couldn't sleep. The difference between the two was one of the most important things Edgar had learned in this city. Lights that stayed on late at night did not always mean work. Sometimes they were simply the result of sleeplessness. There was a knock at the door, twice. Then a long silence followed. 3 seconds, maybe 4, then again. It was a rhythm. 2 knocks, a pause, and 1 knock. It wasn't random. Either it was carefully thought out, or it was a habit. Either way, it caught Edgar's attention. He crushed the cigarette into the ashtray.
"Come in."
The door opened, and the woman stepped inside. She was in her 60s, perhaps older. She wore a black coat, buttoned all the way up to her neck, the collar closed. That's how a coat would look on a cold night. But despite the November chill, it wasn't that cold outside. That meant the woman was protecting herself from something else. Or she was simply used to dressing that way. Either possibility was noted somewhere in Edgar's mind. She held a black umbrella. It wasn't wet. That mattered. It was raining outside, yet the umbrella hadn't been used. Either she had walked a very short distance, or she had stepped out of a vehicle. A vehicle that had dropped her off right at the door, which meant she hadn't come alone. Or at least, someone had brought her this far. Her hair was neatly tied back. Faint comb lines still visible in the gray strands. It was a sign of care. She hadn't rushed. She looked prepared. Yet there was slight swelling under her eyes, and in the corner of her left eye lingered the blurred shadow of several sleepless nights. Her eyes were dark brown. When she looked at Edgar, he noticed something. Just for a moment a flicker, a look that suggested she recognized him. Strangers entering an office usually scan the room, assess it, and look for a comfortable place. But this woman hadn't scanned the room. She had looked directly at the desk, as if searching for something. Then she turned her gaze to Edgar. Edgar silently registered it. The woman sat in the chair across from the desk. She placed the umbrella across her knees and held it with both hands. Her fingers were wrapped tightly around it, not from tension habit. She didn't want to leave her hands idle.
Are you Edgar Blackwood?
It says so on the sign outside.
The woman slightly lowered her head. Of course she had seen the sign, yet she had asked the question, why, to confirm, or to start a conversation. Some people felt the need to ask questions they already knew the answer to, because they were afraid to ask the ones they didn't.
I was referred to you.
By whom?
The woman hesitated for a moment, without blinking. She simply took a breath, one breath. But Edgar noticed it.
An old acquaintance. They didn't want their name mentioned.
Edgar pulled a notebook from his drawer. He took his pen. But he didn't start writing yet. He simply held the pen and looked at the notebook.
That's understandable. I'm listening.
The woman took another breath. This one was deeper. Edgar understood. She was preparing to speak. But something was holding her back. Perhaps putting her words into reality would confirm their truth. Some truths require time before they can be faced.
My daughter is missing.
Her name was Pamela Scoot. At least, that's what she said. Her daughter's name was Dorothy. She was 23. She was studying nursing. For the past 2 months, she had been staying at a boarding house on Marlowe Street in the southern part of the city. 3 weeks ago, on a Tuesday morning, she had said goodbye to the landlady, paid her dues, taken her suitcase, and left. She walked out the door and was never seen again.
Did you go to the police?
I did. They said, an elderly woman can go wherever she wants.
They're right.
The woman narrowed her eyes slightly, thinking. But she said nothing.
Technically, they're right. But I assume you don't think so. Go on.
Dorothy would never go anywhere without informing me.
Has she ever?
A few short trips, a night or two, but she always called me.
She hasn't called even once in 3 weeks?
Not once.
Did you have any recent arguments?
The woman clasped her hands together. On the top of her left hand was a small scar. It looked like an old burn from a stove, a cigarette, unclear, but definitely old. Years old.
Like every mother and daughter.
Did Dorothy have a boyfriend?
I don't know.
Friends?
I don't know their names. A few people she met at the boarding house.
Which hospital was she doing her internship at?
This time, the hesitation was longer. Half a second, maybe a full one. Edgar counted it.
St. Clement.
St. Clement, east side of the city. An old hospital, mid-level. Do they accept interns? I'm not sure. I can find out.
He placed the pen on the desk and looked at the woman. She was looking at him.
Mrs. Scoot, I want to ask you one question, and I ask that you answer honestly. Have you been to this office before?
Silence. Rain tapped against the windows. A large truck passed on the street, the building absorbing and releasing its low vibration. Then silence again. Only the sound of rain remained.
No.
She lied. Edgar wasn't completely certain, but he was nearly certain. The way she had looked when entering the office belonged to someone searching for a familiar place. She had carefully observed the case file on the desk, the faded, old cover. To a stranger, it would be just an object. But to this woman, it was familiar for a brief moment. Then she had looked away. That file, 1932. Edgar took a deep breath and placed the contract paper on the desk.
All right. My fee is $3 per day, plus expenses. I plan to begin as of tomorrow.
The next morning, at 8 o'clock, Edgar was standing in front of St. Clement Hospital. The hospital had been built in 1921. The stone inscription above the main entrance made that clear. The brick facade, narrow windows, and that sterile, cold atmosphere unique to hospitals were all present. On that cold November morning, the building was covered in mist, and the lamps above the entrance were still lit. When he stepped inside, The smell of disinfectant hit him. There were long corridors, and the linoleum-covered floor produced a faint creak with every step. From a distance came the sound of a stretcher wheel, a door closing, and someone coughing. Hospitals were places where people let themselves go. That was why Edgar could never feel at ease there. The head nurse's office door was open. Mrs. Fowler was a woman in her 50s, with sharp features, and she looked at him with a refined expression behind her glasses. Her desk appeared messy yet orderly. File folders, a ruler, 2 pens, and a cup of fresh coffee. The steam from the coffee was still drifting in the air. Edgar stepped inside, but forgot to close the door.
Excuse me, I'm looking for an intern. Dorothy Scoot.
Mrs. Fowler looked at him carefully over her glasses.
Our interns list is confidential.
I understand. But it would be enough for me to know whether this name is registered. I'm a relative,
Edgar said, placing his business card on the desk. Fowler glanced at the card. Then she stood up, took a ledger from the shelf, and flipped through the pages. Her finger stopped at one point, then at another. Finally, she closed the book.
We don't have an intern named Dorothy Scoot.
Never have.
Never.
Are you certain?
Mr. Blackwood, I know everyone who works here. I've never heard that name.
Edgar thanked her and walked toward the door. As he reached the threshold, he stopped and turned back.
Have there been any interns from other hospitals in the past 2 months?
You'll need to speak with administration about those matters.
He stepped outside. He stood in front of the hospital. He took out a cigarette and lit it, but he didn't smoke it. He simply held it between his fingers and watched the smoke disperse into the air. Dorothy Scoot, not present at St. Clement. Her mother must have named the wrong hospital, or she was mistaken, or she was lying, which was worse. The cigarette turned to ash between his fingers. The boarding house on Marlowe Street was a 2-story brick building. There was no sign above the door, but an old piece of cloth hanging in the window read "Room for Rent." The writing had faded and looked as if it had been there for years. The person who opened the door was Mrs. Gertrude Sims. She was nearing 70, but there was a youthful curiosity in her eyes. Edgar usually respected landlords like this. They saw many things, if only because they had nothing else to do. She led him into the kitchen and made tea without asking. She also placed a plate of biscuits on the table.
Dorothy Scoot, yes. She stayed here for 2 months. Quiet girl, never caused any trouble.
What time did she leave in the mornings?
At 7, sometimes even as early as 6:30.
Did she say she was a nurse?
No, she didn't say anything like that. But she sometimes wore a white coat, so I assumed she was a nurse.
A coat? Did she wear it every day?
No, not every day. Sometimes she wore it. Sometimes she left in normal clothes.
Were there nights she didn't come back?
A few times, but nothing more than that. She's an adult woman, after all. That's not my business.
What did she say when she left?
She said, "I'm leaving." She put her money on the table, took her suitcase, and walked out the door. And she smiled.
She smiled.
Yes, it was a strange smile. She looked relieved, but at the same time, she also seemed a little frightened.
Mrs. Sims, what exactly was that smile like?
It was like feeling the end of a long wait, like someone who had finally made a decision. But even if she seemed satisfied with that decision, she still carried a kind of fear inside.
Did she have any visitors?
Once.
Who was it?
An older woman, in her 60s, wearing a black coat. They spoke at the door, maybe 5 or 10 minutes.
Did Dorothy let her inside?
No, they stayed outside. The older woman cried.
What did Dorothy do?
She held her hand, but she didn't let her in. Then she closed the door.
That night, in his office, Edgar began setting up an evidence board. He had hung a large corkboard on the wall. He wrote 2 names on it, Pamela Scoot and Dorothy Scoot. Between them, he drew a straight line. Then, Beneath that line, he placed a question mark. What did that line mean? It was a mother-daughter relationship, yes, but it also represented a barrier. Dorothy had refused to let her mother inside. Why? There were two possibilities. Either Dorothy was protecting herself from her mother, or she was protecting her mother. Edgar wanted to light a cigarette, but instead he chose to stand up and pace the room. 3 steps forward, turn, 3 steps back. This was how he thought. Boarding house owner. The older woman cried. Dorothy avoided letting her inside. There is a problem between mother and daughter. Yet Pamela Scoot told me they had conflicts, like every mother and daughter. There is no one named Dorothy Scoot at St. Clement. She sometimes wore a nurse's coat, but not every day. He glanced at his desk, at that old file. Edgar returned to his desk. He opened the 1932 file. He flipped through the pages. Witness statements, police reports, a closed case. He was looking for a name. He had to find a connection, but tonight he couldn't. Toward dawn, at his desk with a pen in his hand, he fell asleep over the open notebook. On the morning of the 3rd day, at 8 o'clock, Edgar went to the municipal archives. It was located in an old government building on a street behind the city center. Built in the 1890s, it had high ceilings and narrow corridors. Because the windows were small, the light coming in was never quite enough. The main illumination came from the yellow bulb lamps on the desks. Population records were kept in large, dark brown-bound books. There was a separate volume for each year. Each book consisted of hundreds of pages. The clerk did not seem particularly pleased with Blackwood's presence, but Edgar knew that municipal archives were open to the public. Pamela Scoot. It began with the letter P. Born in 1880, registered in the city. Place of birth, the Northern Dock District. Marriage record, 1905, to William Scoot. Death record of William Scoot, 1937. Children. Edgar paused for a moment. Children, Dorothy Scoot, born in 1917. That was correct, but there was another page. Edgar turned that page. Dorothy Scoot, 1938. Death record. Edgar leaned back in the archive chair. He stared at the page for a long time, thinking. Then he opened his notebook and wrote. Dorothy Scoot was officially recorded as dead in 1938. However, in 1940, she lived in a boarding house for 2 months. According to her mother's statement, she had gone missing. Either she never truly died, or her death was staged. The archive clerk approached him.
Have you found everything you need?
Perhaps. May I ask how death records were processed in 1938? Who files them?
Usually a family member or a doctor.
Who filed this one?
The clerk glanced at the book.
Pamela Scoot, mother.
Edgar set his pen down. A mother had declared her daughter dead in 1938, and now in 1940, she was searching for her. This could have been a mother's desperation, or part of a plan. That afternoon, Edgar stepped into a telephone booth. He called an old police friend. Jimmy Holly was now an assistant detective. They had been friends for more than 10 years. They owed each other a few things.
The Blackthorn case, 1932. Do you remember it?
That case was officially closed.
I know, but I'm curious about its unofficial corners. There's a name I remember. I didn't mention it back then, but I remember it. Victor Crane.
Where'd you hear that name?
I haven't found it yet. I want confirmation from you.
Crane Edgar. He's one of the most powerful men in the city. He has businesses in the Dock District. During the war, he secured contracts from the government. Untouchable.
There's no such thing as untouchable.
In practice, there is.
In 1932, there was a witness in that case. Pamela Renshaw. She later took the name Scoot. Does that name mean anything to you?
Be careful, Edgar.
He hung up. Edgar stepped out of the booth. The street was wet. The sun was beginning to set. Something had changed. He now had a name. As Edgar left the municipal archives, he considered two possibilities. First, it was possible that Pamela Scoot was hiding certain information in order to protect Dorothy. Second, Pamela Scoot had a plan, and Edgar was part of that plan without even realizing it. Both possibilities were disturbing, but the second carried more danger. The phone, 8 in the evening. He called Pamela Scoot. The number given was connected to a telephone booth or a shared line. On the fourth attempt, it went through.
Mrs. Scoot,
Mr. Blackwood,
we need to meet at the office tomorrow morning.
did you find Dorothy?
No, but I have obtained some information. Please come here at 9 in the morning. We have important matters to discuss.
What did you learn?
It would be better to talk face to face.
All right.
She hung up. Edgar sat down. He opened the 1932 file. He found the page containing the witness statements. There was a 4-line statement under the name Margaret Renshaw. A note from the prosecutor had been added beside it. Credibility questionable. Possibility of personal hostility should be considered. Personal hostility. The definition used in 1932 to invalidate a woman's testimony. Edgar turned toward the window. The city had gone dark. At exactly 9 in the morning, there were 3 knocks at the door, the same rhythm. 2 knocks, a pause, 1 knock. This time, Edgar noticed it. It was definitely a habit. It was the same every time.
Come in.
Pamela Scoot entered. She was wearing the same black coat, but this time she had no umbrella. It was cloudy outside, but it wasn't raining, and there was a different expression on her face compared to her first visit. The first time, her expression had been prepared. This time, she looked like someone ready for the question she had been expecting. She sat down. Her hands were folded in her lap. She waited. Edgar placed the note he had taken from the municipal archives on the desk and pushed it toward her. Dorothy Scoot was recorded as dead in 1938, filed by Pamela Scoot. The woman looked at the note, then at Edgar.
And between September and November 1940, Dorothy Scoot stayed at a boarding house on Marlowe Street for 2 months. Additionally, in 1932, there was a witness in the Blackthorn case named Margaret Renshaw. That witness later took the name Pamela Scoot.
The woman closed her eyes. She didn't avoid it. She simply focused on a corner of the desk. She didn't move. Then she turned back to Edgar.
What do you want to know?
Everything. From the beginning.
Pamela Scoot took a deep breath, and she said something that no longer required preparation. The story unfolded like this. Pamela Renshaw had been living in the Blackthorn district in 1932. At that time, there were many cases of extortion and intimidation in the area. Small businesses were being threatened. Those who resisted were beaten, and their shops were vandalized. According to police records, the perpetrators were unknown. But Pamela had noticed the patterns. One night from her window, she saw 2 men beating a grocer, and she recognized one of them. He was Victor Crane's right-hand man. This man was active in the area as Crane's representative. Pamela had given a statement, but her testimony had been deemed unreliable. Victor Crane was a man with connections to the city prosecutor. Pamela had been left alone.
What happened after that?
A few things. There was broken glass in front of my door. I felt that someone had touched my belongings. One night, someone slipped a piece of paper under my door that said, "Be quiet."
Didn't you go to the police?
To the police. The police closed the case. Victor Crane's friends were in the department.
Go on.
In 1933, I moved to a different part of the city. I took a new name. I got married. William was a good man. He died in 1937, from cancer.
Dorothy.
Dorothy knew everything. I told her everything from a young age, because she needed to understand what silence meant. In 1938, Dorothy said to me, "Mother, I'm going to investigate Crane, but for that, I need to be recorded as dead. If it becomes known that I am Pamela Scoot's daughter, I could get into trouble. So I had her death record issued."
What did she learn over those 2 years?
I don't know. We met from time to time, but she never told me anything. She said, "To protect you."
And what is her situation now?
I haven't heard from her for 2 months. The last time we met, I went to the place on Marlowe Street. She didn't want me to come inside. I cried. She held my hand, but she said, "I'm no longer safe, and I might put you at risk, too." 3 weeks ago, the landlady called me. She said, "Your daughter is missing."
Mrs. Scoot, where is Victor Crane working now?
Why are you asking that?
Because Dorothy didn't disappear, she moved. And to find out where she went, I need to understand Crane.
Victor Crane's largest office in the city was located at the end of Dock Street. Edgar hadn't learned this from Jimmy Hawley. He had found it in the city's commercial records. It was a safer method. The building had been converted from an old warehouse. It was 4 stories tall with wide windows and a partially renovated facade. Above the door was a bronze plaque that read, "Crane and Partners, Import-Export." Beneath it was the date, 1927. Edgar didn't go inside. There was a newspaper stand across the street. The man was arranging his papers in the early morning. Edgar bought a newspaper and waited. From 9 in the morning until noon, 14 people entered the building. 4 came out. Some delivery vehicles arrived and left. It was the usual traffic of an ordinary commercial building. But at 2 in the afternoon, someone came out of the back door. A young woman wearing a black coat. Her hair was tied back, almost like part of a suit. She walked quickly, but she wasn't running. She held a slim document case in her hand. Edgar didn't recognize her, but recognizing her wasn't difficult, because that walk resembled Pamela Scoot's, the same shoulder posture and rhythm of steps. Pamela 30 years ago. Dorothy. Edgar crumpled his newspaper and followed her. Dorothy Scoot walked quickly but cautiously. She turned left down 2 streets, went straight for another, then entered a small corner grocery store. Edgar waited outside. 3 minutes later, she came out. She was holding a small bag. She might have bought bread, one of life's daily necessities. She moved deeper into the city. She stopped in front of an old 4-story apartment building. She took a key from her bag and went inside. Edgar leaned against the wall across the street. He took out a cigarette and began to wait. 1 hour passed, 2 hours. One of the windows on the 3rd floor lit up. Shortly after, a silhouette appeared. She seemed to be cleaning the glass or looking at something. Then she stepped back. Edgar approached and knocked on the door. A long time passed. Finally, a voice came from inside.
"Who is it?"
Edgar Blackwood, private detective. Your mother, Pamela Scoot, hired me.
There was a long silence. Then footsteps were heard. Then the door opened. The young woman stood in the doorway. She had dark brown eyes, her mother's eyes. But her gaze was different, sharper, more tired. In that moment, facing a stranger, she carried the look of a woman expecting to defend herself.
"How did you find me?"
I watched Crane's office. I saw you leave.
Dorothy's expression didn't change, but Edgar noticed how tightly she gripped the door handle.
"Come in, but be quick."
The apartment was small, 1 room and a kitchenette. It was lit by a narrow window. But on the table, there was a world, files, papers, notes, and photographs. A string arrangement stretched between 2 walls, with papers hanging from it. It resembled the evidence board in Edgar's own office. Dorothy closed the door and moved beside the table. She stood as if she wanted to protect the materials.
"Why did my mother hire you?"
She thinks she's lost you.
I'm not lost.
I understand that now. You're investigating Victor Crane.
Edgar said. It wasn't a question. Dorothy didn't respond. Then she sat down, took the thickest file from the table. She didn't hand it over immediately. She held it for a moment.
We could have resolved this 12 years ago. If they had believed it back then.
Your mother's statement.
Yes.
What did you learn?
There were approximately 50 pages inside, containing invoices. They included port customs records, supply agreements, and warehouse transfer forms. At the top of the pages was the Crane and Partner seal. At the bottom were stamps from the prosecutor's office, the Municipal Trade Department, and a newly established Wartime Supply Commission. Edgar turned the pages carefully. On each page, he found details that caught his attention, numbers. He noticed that for the same products, different invoices listed different quantities. Multiple amounts had been recorded, but only one had been billed to the state. The discrepancy was distributed through small clauses hidden beneath the figures.
False invoicing.
Yes. It applies to wartime supply operations. The government purchases materials for hospitals. Crane acts both as supplier and intermediary. He records higher quantities on the invoice than what is actually delivered. The difference remains as his profit.
How did you obtain these documents?
I've been working at Crane's office for 2 months, under an alias, as a secretary.
That's a very dangerous situation.
I'm aware.
Crane may have noticed you.
If he had, I wouldn't be here right now.
That was true, and she said it in a calm tone. Neither with heroic bravado nor trembling fear, simply as if stating a fact.
Why did you leave the boarding house?
One of Crane's men had started asking questions about the place. My mother came, but I didn't let her in. It was no longer safe.
But you didn't call your mother.
There are all kinds of people around Crane. Telephone lines aren't secure. Letters can be monitored. If my mother stays as far away as possible, that means she's safer.
But your mother is looking for you and doesn't know the situation.
That's her mistake.
Edgar sensed a brief fracture in her voice. It lasted only a moment. Then she regained control.
That's her mistake.
And what are you going to do with these documents?
I intend to deliver them to the right prosecutor. But finding the right prosecutor in this city, that's not easy at all.
Do you know anyone?
No.
I know someone.
Henry Marsh had been working in a small prosecutor's office in the city for more than a year. He had long since given up on focusing on his career, because building a career in this city required forming relationships with certain people. Marsh did not want to form those kinds of relationships. This had made him more modest, but honest. Edgar knew him. Their paths had crossed 10 years ago on a case. Marsh had reopened the file just to examine a minor detail. People like that were rare. Edgar didn't make an appointment before going to Marsh's office. He didn't call either. He went directly and knocked on the door.
Blackwood.
Marsh, I brought you something.
Whenever I hear you've brought something, I get a headache.
This time, it'll probably hurt more.
Edgar placed the file on the desk. Then he sat down. Marsh took the file and opened it. He began flipping through the pages. After the first few pages, he slowed down. Then he stopped.
Where is this coming from?
Victor Crane's office.
How did that happen?
It's better if you don't ask.
Marsh looked at Edgar for a moment. Then he returned to the file. He continued turning the pages. This time, much more carefully.
False invoicing. Wartime supply operations. Sales of materials to a state hospital. Invoices issued for 40% more than the actual delivered quantity.
What can we do with these numbers?
Based on the values in these documents, over $100,000. Is there a witness?
Yes, but the witness's safety is the priority now.
I understand. Give me a few days.
Crane has strong connections in the municipality and the courts.
I know. That's why I need to be very careful.
Marsh, this case is an extension of one from 1932, Blackthorn. Back then, a witness statement was given but ignored.
Who?
Pamela Scoot, formerly Renshaw.
8 years ago, you wanted to take that case.
Yes, I know.
And you were blocked.
I know that too. This time, there's a stronger witness and stronger evidence.
3 days later, a police team arrived at Victor Crane's office, early in the morning before the building staff had arrived. Crane was not in his office that morning, but his lawyers had gathered there by noon. A small piece of news about the incident appeared in the city's newspapers. It was published under the headline, "Suspicious Commercial Activities." Since it was wartime, major events dominated the pages, but that small article was notable. Edgar read the news in his office. His morning coffee had already gone cold. Without drinking it, he folded the newspaper and placed it on the edge of his desk. Pamela Scoot came to the office the next morning. It was past 9. This time, the rhythm at the door was different. 3 quick knocks in succession. She stepped inside. She was wearing the same black coat, but this time, she didn't have an umbrella. The weather outside was overcast, but the sun was trying to break through the clouds. There was no tension on the woman's face anymore, only a sense of exhaustion. Beneath that exhaustion was a strange lightness, as if a burden carried for a long time had finally begun to lift. She sat down.
I saw the newspaper.
Yes.
Where is Dorothy?
She's safe. She contact you soon.
The woman lowered her head. She brought her arms together in her lap. The burn mark on the back of her left hand was visible. This time, Edgar decided to ask,
"What is that mark?"
1933. A few months before I moved, someone lit a fire with cloth in front of my door. I burned myself trying to put it out.
Mrs. Scoot, I only want to ask you one thing.
You may.
Have you ever been to this office before? Many years ago, under another name.
No, but under my name at the time. I went to a different office, to a detective. He didn't believe me either.
This office?
No, but this street.
There was a silence. The rain had started again, tapping against the window. Edgar handed over an envelope. Inside was the bill. The woman took the envelope, opened it, and pulled out the statement. As she looked, she found something else inside. A small, rectangular black and white photograph. It wasn't hers. No one had left it there. Edgar explained.
Dorothy wanted this to reach you. She wanted you to know you were safe before she could reach you.
The woman took the photograph. She examined it. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She closed her hand around the photo.
Mr. Blackwood.
Yes.
In 1932, you didn't believe a witness. Now you believe that witness's daughter. Why?
Because this time I examined the documents.
In 1932, there were documents but no one questioned them.
That was true, and Edgar knew it. And for Pamela Scoot to say it to his face was the fairest thing she could have done.
You're right.
The woman stood up. She adjusted her coat. She walked toward the door. At the threshold, she turned for a moment.
Thank you, Mr. Blackwood.
And she left. Edgar watched the closed door for a while. Then he returned to his desk. He took the 1932 file, opened it, and reviewed it one last time. He read Pamela Renshaw's statement, 4 lines. Then he read the prosecutor's note beside it. Credibility questionable. He took his pen. On that note, in small letters, he wrote something. She was credible. He closed the file. He placed it on the highest shelf, out of its usual place, somewhere harder to reach. Then he opened the new page in his notebook. At the top of the page, he wrote 2 words, Victor Crane. Beneath it, he added, Court proceedings ongoing. Follow up. As he closed the notebook, he lit his cigarette. This time, he smoked it. Slowly, with a deep breath, he looked out the window. The city was still gray and wet, but the rain had begun to slow. Maybe it was about to stop. Maybe not. It didn't matter much. Edgar Blackwood lived in this city, and in this city, the rain always stopped. For a while,